Hey, this is Chris, also known as Chris++. About 10 years ago, in late 2014 and early 15, I wrote a book called the Classic-Gaming Bookcast. There was some kind of clever reason behind the title, but I can't quite remember. I think I wanted the book to have the same combination of game information, insights, and humor that I was hearing in podcasts about old games. Also, I'd had a channel called the Classic Gaming Webcast in 2013. I had deleted it for YouTube-related reasons, but the book had kind of grown out of that. I used the word webcast because I didn't know what else to call something that combined audio commentary with video, with gameplay. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to create an audio version of the book, as read by the author, and at the same time show footage of myself playing the games as they're discussed. And I'm calling it the Villustrated Classic Gaming Bookcast because I think I'm clever sometimes. Illustrated with video. Isn't that nice? This is for Adam Triunfo, my longtime friend. You may know him better as Bally Alley. He kind of dug this the first time I attempted it. Well, now I'm going to go through with it. And once I'm done reading and illustrating the book, I'll move on to the articles on Adam's website for which I write, orphanedgames.com. It still kind of pains this old grammar head to use the word dot when we all know damn well they're not dots, they're periods. Anyway, I consider the articles I've written since the book was electronically published as addenda to the book. I just cover more games that I really dig that aren't in the book. But first, the bookcast itself. The prologue is called Classicism. I won't read the whole thing because it's mainly about those apparently few of us who still like reading more than watching. So it's kind of irrelevant and a bit ironic. But it does go into how we enjoy interacting rather than merely watching things on various screens. Oh, here's a good part. One of the most enjoyable ways to interact with those screens instead of just watching them is, of course, to play on them. Back in 1994, my pal Adam started one of the first paper newsletters about old games, Orphaned Computers and Game Systems. He published 3 issues before he was sidetracked. In '97, I encouraged him to continue where he had left off, and he said he would if I'd collaborate. We went on to type up and mail off a couple years' worth of bi-monthly issues. We had hundreds of readers around the world. This is a fancy way of mentioning that 2 of our subscribers didn't live in America. In 2000, OC and GS became a website, and we've been occasionally writing articles for it since then. And I do consider each article a companion to the chapters in this book, each of which, except one, is related to one particular game, or on the rare occasion, brief series of games. Adam is also the webmaster of Bally Alley, a phenomenal site about the professional arcade/astrocade. And that's at ballyalley.com, as you can imagine. I've decided to try merging 2 of my joys, writing and playing old video games, and temporarily setting aside my other great joy, making music. In terms of describing the games in general, any of the common euphemisms for old, classic, vintage, etc., the somewhat incorrect retro, are fine with me, but in my own prose I prefer to be as forthright as possible. There's nothing wrong with age anyway. In fact, even in our superficial Western society, age was once respected and revered much more highly than youth. No, I'm not sure why that matters, it just sounds cool when it's pointed out. We all seek greater ages, after all, as we tend to try remaining alive. Essentially, I've written the sort of book that I would love to read. And whereas bookcast might at first appear to be an especially goofy compound word, it seems no goofier than podcast, blog, a lazy English abridgment of weblog, or insert your favorite phonetic atrocity here. And you'll be happy to know I won't be making common imitative mistakes. There's a lot of imitative language out there now. I won't be using reference or source as a verb, or reveal or fail as a noun. I could go on. Anyway, the title was ultimately determined by the facts that Classic Gaming Whatever had somehow not been taken yet, and it made the general theme very clear. I confess that even back when I named the channel, I settled on classic with a grain of salt, as that's a matter of individual taste, really, and gaming with a whole jar of the stuff. Game is not a verb. Don't care how often it's used. I know I'm far too late with this observation, but the implied action to game still strikes me as funny, honestly. Again, it's clear, so it'll work. Lest any of this smack of justification, be assured that I'm only writing because it's fun, to me. Each of us only gets the one life, after all. Of course, it would be great if you felt encouraged to try out the occasional game featured herein, or if you're only vaguely familiar with it, give it a real chance. Those podcasts are cool, aren't they? I could never have dreamt of such wide communication with other players. Oh, you were hooked on that game when you were 12 too? I didn't even know there was electricity in Borneo. Oh, by the way, the chapters are sequenced according to platform merely for the sake of convenience. There's no implied criticism here concerning any platform that I might have left out. I've gone with the sensible prioritization of my own tastes when choosing the games to cover. The systems on which they're played really are irrelevant. While I do provide a lot of details and amusing trivia, I don't claim to furnish utterly comprehensive game histories or exhaustive instructions, and I never take a game's popularity into account. Couldn't care less. Again, this isn't a reference guide or a bunch of reworded manuals. Now that I've shared my thoughts with you, even if you didn't want them, it's too late now, we're going to have a great time. Games are wonderful things. They keep our minds sharp, while our commodity society vies to transform us into complacent, uncreative androids without attention spans, and with almost no desire to learn from each other's outlook or perspective or engage in active enjoyments within our fleeting lifespans. They might even protect some of us from turning into walking media casualties. And very frequently, video games are fascinating and intensely fun. At least we can agree on that. Alright, there was the prologue, or the relevant bits anyway. Coming up is the only chapter that doesn't have to do with a specific game. I do talk about a lot of games, but I talk about them via discussing growing up with video games.